Hi, my name is Devin, and my daughter Jacqueline was diagnosed with schizophrenia a little over 2 months ago. I'm doing this video to first get this off my chest. It's a lot of information, it's a lot to go through, and unfortunately, it is a taboo topic that nobody wants to talk about or they don't know enough about it. So I'm hoping this is going to help me. I also want to help other parents. I know that when I first Googled the day of the diagnosis, my daughter's schizophrenia, I came up with very little help, a lot of dead ends, and a lot of just repetitive information that didn't sound very helpful, a lot of doom and gloom. So I've been an advocate for my daughter. I've had to search and find and research all the different avenues, and we've been crusaders. We've found out so much. We've gone around the norm, the traditional, the non-traditional, and have found out so much within the last couple months, and I'm just thrilled to share that with anybody it could help. I also am hoping that there are parents out there who are going through this or who have been through it that can give me some guidance and help, because I am willing to take anything. And I know my daughter is willing to try anything. So, a little bit of background. Jacqueline has been experiencing severe anxiety and depression for about 2 years. 5 years ago, she took on firing nerves, tingling in her back, sometimes through her fingertips and her toes. And that's been happening for about 5 years. So a couple years into that, anxiety started to come about, and it made perfect sense because the poor child had this ongoing tingling sensation that nobody could figure out. She was just put on drugs to kind of buffer and help it a little bit, but never quite went away. So anxiety kicked in and depression kicked in, and we always thought, again, it was just the next phase of this whole tingling, firing nerve sensation. And along with this comes the suicidal ideation. So day and night, doesn't matter what day of the week it was, Jacqueline would think about suicide. And it was just a natural thought, not a pleasant thought, of course, but seemed like a viable option any day of the week. And she couldn't figure out why, because her life on paper looked pretty good. She came from a loving family, she had friends, her grades are good. She lives in a beautiful place, and all the boxes were checked, but she just always had this urge that to end her life would be the best option. So that was really frightening. It wasn't until October of 2017 that Jacqueline started experiencing serious psychosis. And what this means for her, these were the positive symptoms of schizophrenia, like hallucinating, hearing voices, seeing figures, having intrusive thoughts. So she would be in school and she would start hearing whispers. They'd start off with whispers, and then there would be voices, up to 5 at a time, telling her, "You suck, kill yourself, you're no good, nobody likes you, everybody hates you," things like that. And then she would start to see things, dark figures out of the corner of her eye. Then they became way more intrusive, just in her room. She'd wake up from a nightmare to see a dark figure she calls Skin Man standing at her door, surrounded by flies, and she couldn't leave her room. She was too scared to come up and get us because Skin Man was blocking her doorway. That, along with the intrusive thoughts, just telling her really negative things, and just a hellish experience all the way around for any human being to endure, much less a 14-year-old child. So we were going to Chalk at the time, and our psychiatrist who was only at the hospital 4 hours a week. He was the only doctor that accepted health insurance. So if you didn't get in to see him, you were basically out of luck. So this guy, after seeing Jacqueline a couple times and learning about all of her symptoms, he said she has schizophrenia. And it turns out that I have an uncle who had schizophrenia, and it wasn't a good outcome. He was on the first round of antipsychotics, the first generation of antipsychotics, which were not good. And I don't know, back in the 40s and 50s and 60s, if they handled mental illness very well or knew enough about it. I think you just kind of got shipped off somewhere, unfortunately. And it was just a sad, sad ending for him. So anyway, we get this news, and it's devastating because this doctor, not only did he tell us that she had schizophrenia, he never provided any backup plan. There was no plan B. There was no, this is a therapy you need to do. This is a specialist you need to see. It was just, she has schizophrenia. It's probably going to get worse, so prepare yourself, with no help on how to do that. So I knew something was wrong. I knew this wasn't the way. I knew there were answers. So I started putting my feelers out. I went to a friend who I knew, whose daughter was experiencing mental issues. And she told me, first of all, don't take some part-time psychiatrist's word on what your daughter has. Go and get her properly assessed at a medical hospital. This is my first tip. Go and get a team of doctors to assess your child. I took Jacqueline to UCLA Medical Center. I'm fortunate enough to live an hour away. I took her there. She was assessed for 6 days, and they came up with a diagnosis of major depression with psychosis. And our psychosis is mood congruent. This was amazing news. Best news our family has heard in years. What it means is that it's controllable and it's reversible, and that's unbelievable. So her trajectory very well might be schizophrenia if we were to do nothing about it. Just keeping her on antipsychotics and just letting her ride out, and that would be likely. However, we're catching it early, and with the proper therapy, she can clearly take a different path and have a much better outcome. So with this news, we found out that her psychosis is mood congruent. So anytime Jacqueline is anxious and gets depressed is when those symptoms are going to kick in. Our goal is to make sure those symptoms never kick in, and we just want to keep her as happy and healthy, obviously, as possible. So the therapy that was recommended was CBT or DBT, both recommended for any child or person with psychosis, because it helps you rework your brain pathways. Neuroplasticity, for instance. How about that word? I haven't heard that one since a month ago, but when you're in it, you start to learn about what's out there, and there are methods and there are therapists who believe that they can change a trajectory and that you don't have to fall victim to what the doctors say the inevitable is going to be. You don't have to do that. You don't have to go down that route. You can find another way. So with proper medication and proper therapy, your child can live a very fulfilled life beyond what the scary books tell you and what the doom and gloom doctors say out there. So I do have hope that we can provide Jacqueline with a very fulfilling future, and we're excited to start this therapy. It's going to rework her brain paths and get her going into a more positive direction, and we're going to break those cycles that keep bringing her back into her psychosis. And I'll be back to let you know how it's going, because I know it's going to go beautifully. It's a lifetime of therapy, a lifetime of medication, but as long as she can live a life that she wants and follow her dreams, that's all we could ask for. So I'll be back with tips and any kind of news that we come up with, and hopefully you can provide us with some. And I'll be back. Thank you.